computer. All right. Hello and welcome to this NAATSO educational webinar. My name is Andrew Schoepfer. I am the Associate Athletic Director for Revenue Generation and Business Intelligence here at Providence College, and then also serve as the second Vice President at NAATSO. And today we'll be talking all things March Madness. So hopefully when your name is called on Selection Sunday, you're going to be able to hit the ground running. So joining me today are three March Madness experts. We have Jared Kramer with the NCAA, Dan Preuett, and Robyn Swensen from Dayton. So welcome everybody, and they'll be able to give you little tips and tricks from behind the scenes. So first I wanted to give an opportunity for Jared, Dan, and Robyn to introduce themselves. So Jared, why don't you kick things off?
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, Jared Kramer, NCAA Associate Director of Ticketing and Marketing. I oversee the ticket operations department here at the NCAA for our 90 championships. Winter championships, we have 4 that we kind of oversee ticketing for, with men's and women's basketball, Frozen 4, and wrestling. I've been at the NCAA since 2014, and my first March Madness was 2015. I actually also hosted when I was at Duquesne University back in 2012. So I've been on both sides of it, with hosting and now also at the NCAA.
Perfect. Thank you. Dan, why don't we kick it over to you?
Yeah, hello everyone. I am Dan Preuett, Assistant AD of Ticketing here at Dayton. This is my second time going around with the NCAA tournament. The first 4 here, got here about a year and a half ago, but also was previously at Central Michigan University and had a couple runs into the women's NCAA tournament. So got to participate both as a participating institution and now a host institution.
Great. Thanks, Dan. And Robyn.
Hi, I'm Robyn Swensen here with the University of Dayton. I am the ticket manager here. I've been at Dayton since I was a student back in 2000, so I've been around for many NCAA hosting events, from the first and second rounds to some women's regionals to the single opening round game to the first 4 from its inception through now. So I've been on the host end for quite a while. So I've been through many different iterations of that.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much. All right, let's jump into it. So we have, let me share our deck here. So Jared has provided this great deck with kind of all the details about the tournament. So Jared, why don't we walk through this and kind of go through all kind of the pertinent details for everybody?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, so I think we started putting this deck together a few years ago. I think, some institutions reached out and hopefully finds it helpful. So I put one together every year. Usually in about January, we have it finalized. Just as we're getting all the quantities, especially for the final 4 finalized. But again, just to go over a few things, the championship has, for the past couple of years, all tickets will be mobile. We will make sure there's a how-to guide that is provided to you based on the site you go to. And we'll talk about that as we go through the deck here. Selection Sunday comes, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit more and kind of what the plan is for that. But once Selection Sunday comes, we find out which site each school's going to. We provide them their allotment for that site, the first 4 or first and second round sites. And then what we do is, unfortunately, we can't put the seats in accounts until later that night because we don't find out the times so late on Selection Sunday. So we don't know if you're in session 1 or 2. But we at least want to get you the allocation as soon as possible, for you can start looking at that and managing. And then as you proceed through, as teams advance, we provide the additional allocations. Some teams have asked for all that earlier, which we're happy to provide. So just reach out to me if there's any questions, or you're looking for additional allocations for maybe the regionals earlier, so you have that in the very few minutes you have throughout that week. You can look at the regionals moving forward. Go to the next slide there, Andrew.
Yeah, perfect.
And what we start to go, again, just more on the mobile tickets. And again, one of the key things to note here is, again, we are on different ticket providers throughout the championship. Majority of them are going to be on the NCAA account manager through Ticketmaster. But there are also Des Moines, which will be on Paciolan, and Las Vegas and Kansas City, which are on Access. So it does change a little bit for those sites, but all others, including the men's Final 4, will be on the NCAA account manager Ticketmaster, which again can talk about a little bit later as we get through. But again, all tickets are going to be uploaded into accounts. As we get, as we get closer to the regionals and the Final Four, we actually will talk about how we can upload those tickets for you. But for the first four in the first and second round, just due to the amounts and also the quantities that each team gets, we will upload directly into accounts. One thing I'll note is we will work with you. When we've worked with institutions in the past, that if you'd like those to be in separate accounts, we can break them up. Some like to have certain tickets in an account under one person, another. We're happy to do that for you. This way, it's not 350 or 500, as we'll talk about in one person's accounts. And we do have the option. We worked through this last year for your player guests, which again are still mobile, but the opportunity to basically lock those down. We can lock them down to be non-transferable, non-sellable for those that you want. Again, we'll upload those into those specific accounts, and they won't be they will just access their tickets and be able to scan them in. They can't do anything else with those tickets. Perfect. Next slide, please. So I want to get the team allotments and kind of the dates of return. So again, we'll talk about with Robyn and Dan the first four a little bit here. So teams are required to purchase 100 tickets. Again, we have the pricing a little bit later, but those are going to be $70 that you must buy. Then you have the option for 100 tickets. So again, 200 total for the first four. One thing I'll note, again, it's only in the session you're playing in, obviously, especially the first four, because you are traveling pretty much right after that game to your next site if you advance. So you won't be there for the second day or the first day. You're still maybe just arriving. So the date to return those optional tickets is on Monday, March 13th at 5 o'clock. So you'll have, again, about 24 hours to decide if you want those. Moving on to the first and second round, you are required to purchase 350 tickets. Again, these are all either behind your bench or across your bench, depending on the seed. We also do have the option for 50 additional tickets in the upper level. These are only for the session you are playing in. So again, if you are playing only in the first session, you'd only get them for the first session. And then if you advance, you get them for the third session or the second round. Those team returns are due back by March 14th at 5 p.m. One thing to note, though, is the teams that are advancing from Dayton in the first four, we will provide you extra time just due to the time constraint. And actually, some of you won't even know on Tuesday, or you won't know Tuesday if you're advancing. So, you'll have extra time. And then for those, as you advance after the first round on Thursday or Friday, we'll get you your allocation right after, and you'll have till the transition meeting about those 50 additional optional tickets if you'd like to take those. Now we'll go into the regional semifinals. This is where it's changed. Last year was really the first time that we did this. Obviously before that we had a pandemic and a few years that were a little different. So, but now it used to be all session tickets. It is now no longer all session. It's just per session, like the first and second round. But for the regional semifinals, each team will be required to purchase 500. Again, these are all lower level, behind or across your bench. Then the option for 500 tickets in the upper level. Those teams that advance to the regional finals will get the exact same number of seats. Same requirement of 500 and the same upper level optional tickets they purchase. So there won't be any need to return any additional or add any. That's the same. You'll get the same number. Those teams that do not advance will have, and actually I realize there's a typo on this, and trying to get you the updated one, but non-advancing teams are not required to purchase those lower level 100. It's actually optional. It's an optional 100. You don't have to take any, and there is no additional tickets. So the most you can get is 100 if you do not advance. Those are lower level. They're across from the benches because we make sure the teams that do advance get their tickets behind their bench for the regional final. Those allotments are due back by 5 p.m. Tuesday, March 21st. So a little different there at the regionals if you haven't been in a couple years. And I believe we can talk about this a little bit as we move through, because I think, Andrew, you guys kind of went through this last year a little bit. So we can bring that up after we go through the deck, Andrew, if you want to talk about it now. I don't know what's best for the group.
Let's finish, going through this, and then we can kind of chat about some of those particulars there. So we'll jump to the next.
Good. Yeah, we'll go to the Final Four. So Final Four, very similar to the regionals. Obviously, a lot more tickets we talked about. So it's 3,400. And we say all the tickets are optional. There is no requirement. I don't think we've ever had anybody not kind of take many tickets there. So, but you get 3,400 optional. These are all lower level. Again, start behind your bench and kind of working around towards the end zone. They're a little bit higher up as you get towards the corners just because of the sight lines. But there's also an additional 90 tickets. So it's really 3,490 that you get, but 90 of them are player guest tickets. Those player guest tickets are for your game only at the regional semifinals. So you'll get, there's 45 tickets directly behind your bench and 45 across your bench. Between the two games, these tickets will actually swap out for tickets in the corner for, again, the teams in the second game will be able to sit there and the teams in the first game can go to the corner. So you do have a different seat location for those, but they won't have the same seat for those 90 player guest tickets. Kind of the same thing for the regional finals. Those teams that advance, will get the same number of tickets, that you had for the regional or for the Final Four semifinals, including the 90 player guest tickets. Non-advancing teams will have 927 tickets optional that can purchase. Again, those are all lower level, we across from the benches, but all kind of center court lower level. And basically the 927, just for comes out because it's one full section there. That's how we got to that number. Again, we look at the locations from the semifinals to the finals. Again, based on bench assignments. We actually will give the highest seed team the option for their bench assignment, and we go from there. The return date for all your optional tickets is on Wednesday, March 29th at 5 p.m. Central Time, because that's located in Houston this year. Next slide is just going to list out all the pricing. So again, the pricing is the same for first and second round. Doesn't matter which site you go to. So your required tickets are $100 each. If you have the 50 option or $80, the first four, everything is the same, $70 for both required and optional. Regionals, again, same, doesn't matter if you're going to New York versus a different site, Louisville, Kansas City, or Vegas. They're all going to be $150 for those lower level tickets and $125 for the upper level tickets. And then as you get to the Final Four, again, we kind of break it out. It's $200 per session, so it's $400 for the whole thing, but each session you get, it's $200. Again, just some additional notes, and I know we'll talk about these a little bit more as we go, but as I mentioned, those prices are listed as single sessions. There's required the semifinals that, again, it's 150 to 150 as you advance. Again, all Final Four kind of optional, no requirements. And then the one thing I'll note is student tickets, and that's for both the regional finals and the Final Four. At the regional finals, if you advance those regional finals, we actually will provide one of the band corrals to you. And these are complimentary. There's about 32 people that can sit in there. These are again, don't have to take them. Usually it's about 50-50. One team takes them, one team doesn't, just based on proximity to their campus. There's about 32 tickets you get. For the Final Four, again, it's 700 tickets that we have available for your students to purchase. Again, it's only the games you are playing in that they'll sit behind the basket. For the other game at the semifinals, we'll actually move them to the corner seats. And again, we do that move between the two games and at the semifinals. I talked to a guy that actually won. Yeah, just here, all my information's included here for my email, phone numbers. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out. Again, I've been able to work with many of you throughout this championship, either as a host or a participant. Not only March Madness, but as well as some other championships. So, again, hopefully you find this deck helpful. We try to put together, as I mentioned, every year. Again, with updates, hopefully a lot of it stays the same. And again, the one thing I'll mention, and I think Andrew knows this and others, once you go through it this year, after, please send me feedback. Again, we try to take all that feedback as we look at this. We look at all the numbers, we analyze the optional numbers, the required numbers, the pricing, the process. So again, I don't take anything personally. This is all we're trying to make it as best for all the teams. Obviously, we know there's going to be instances where, based on locations and proximity, it's not going to be exactly what everybody wants, but we try to do our best. Just as, again, we look at all 68 teams to provide them equal access and the best outcome.
Perfect. Thanks for going through all that. And it definitely is a lot. And so I know everybody kind of looking at this right now, if you haven't been through this, is probably feel like they're drinking from the fire hose a little bit. But having been through it, a couple of times at Providence, fortunately, I can say that just taking kind of step by step, and you have a lot of great resources around you, which is definitely, helps you work through it. And that's where, we'll touch on kind of the building side and kind of folks you'll be working with once you get sent to a site in a second here. But yeah, just following on that, I think there are definitely a couple of kind of tips we've learned last year, especially navigating this system, going through the first and second rounds and then making it to the Sweet 16 last year. I think from the first and second rounds, our biggest thing that we took away from last year is just try to be prepared early and plan to win. We're gonna this year, once we get our allotment and know where we're at, again, knock on wood that we're in the tournament, we're feeling pretty good now, but who knows what we're looking at next week. But we're going to essentially build our manifest in our ticketing system and then build it for the first and second rounds and roll everything over once we're kind of set in with our cell. Because as we talked about with those upload pieces of things, the reports that we found that we needed to kick out, it was that formatting was kind of tough, especially when we got to the Sweet 16 level. So if we had built it in our system, that manifest that we're able to kick out of our ticketing system looks very similar to what needs to be uploaded into the side of things. So we're kind of thinking internally that if we do that work on the front end, and it's going to be a little bit of a pain on the front end, but it's going to make our lives a lot easier as we're going through it. Because, last year as we're sitting in Buffalo, we win our first game and we're sitting up in a suite during the second game, trying to set everything up and roll it over instead of being able to enjoy the moment a little bit more. So I think that was a big thing for us that kind of we learned as we were going through that and kind of working through it.
Andrew, one quick thing here, and I think you said this is going to be uploaded to a resource site, I believe, for all those. What I can do is I'm working on actually currently and hope to have it done by the end of this week is a list of all the locations for all the team allotments that I can provide to you if you'd like to include that with this. And so again, you might not know, but you could, as much as you want to plan, you can plan ahead. We'll provide all that to you.
Perfect. No, that'd be helpful. Yes, the NAATSO community board will have that deck that we just shown with the correction in there, and then we'll definitely upload all of that as a resource site. So I think that will be helpful. So Dan, Robyn, any other kind of thoughts from your side about being on the participant side of things before we kind of jump to the building side from your various experiences? No, good.
I think you covered everything pretty well. I just want to reiterate that formatting that you talked about, it really does make it a lot easier on your end as well as Ticketmaster's end when they're trying to upload those tickets for you.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, only thing I would add is it's exactly like you mentioned, like the conference tournaments coming up. It really is that preparing to win and be ready for how far do I want to advance. And obviously you want to be optimistic and build all the way to the championship game and be ready to roll. So yeah, you'd much rather be planning ahead and enjoying the victory than having to sit there and step away to get everything built because you're surprised that you won a game or advancing to a regional or things like that. So definitely advanced preparation is there big. And obviously, like Robyn and I are here for first four. If you think you're on the bubble or things like that and want to reach out and ask questions, we're always here to help and answer questions to help take away some of those guesses that you might not have if you haven't been to Dayton.
Perfect. Great. So sticking on Dayton, you guys have obviously hosted for years now with the first four and have been through kind of that process from the host side. So before we get to kind of the selection Sunday and beyond, I think it might be helpful for folks who might be on the call if they are kind of on the hosting side, kind of, or just even people who might be curious if they're hosting next year, the year after, kind of what that process of being a host is like. Like, what's the year look like as you've been getting ready for March Madness, hosting stuff, kind of these changes? What does that look like from the host side? So Dan, Robyn, whoever wants to kick off there, go for it.
Yeah, it truly is a year-round plan. Credit to Jared and his team for communications and making sure everybody's prepared well in advance to be ready to host. And for us, a lot of the communication comes from the NCAA to ticket holders. So a lot of that started in early fall this year of getting advanced pre-sale information out there, pushing all session tickets. And our fans know not to wait. They know to buy early and get their spot. So it's definitely a year-round planning. There's monthly meetings that we do with our local organizing committee to kind of touch base on where tickets are, where sponsorships are, what events are going on, and make sure everybody's on the same page as you start chipping away those weeks of once you get into the basketball season, time seems to fly by, and all of a sudden you're from non-conference play to, wow, we're March. So it's getting everything rolling for that. But yeah, it truly is a year-round plan with a lot of collaboration with the NCAA to make sure that's all rolling. But digital tickets has been a very nice advancement to be able to service customers from day one, essentially, when we go on sale, and they know where their seats are, how they're getting their tickets, and just to be on the lookout for once everything's ready to go in the account manager.
Perfect. Yeah, Robyn, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just add on that, like Dan said, props to Jared and their team for everything they've done to kind of make this easier throughout the years. Starting a couple years ago when, at least for Ticketmaster schools, when NCAA started running everything through their own ARCTICS database, has really taken a lot of the onus off of the participating schools on building and managing all the ticket sales. So that has been really nice on the hosting side, that everything's kind of centralized through the NCAA and Ticketmaster. So just, if you have questions as a host, if you have questions on that, just really lean on Jared and your NCAA or your Ticketmaster rep, and they can really help you through that. Like I said, it's taken a lot of the work off of that for hosting schools. So.
Yeah, and Andrew, one thing I just mentioned is what we've kind of done is, and really post-pandemic, and it was going to happen really during the pandemic, but with the, we have an agreement right now with Access and Ticketmaster, the NCAA, and we look at what the host venue is using. And again, I'd say probably 95% are Ticketmaster, with being an NBA or NHL arenas, and then a few, as I mentioned this year, there's, one Pacquiao and 2 Access. As we look at next year, it's pretty much there's 1 Access, I think 1 Pacquiao sites, and then the rest are Ticketmaster. So what we try to do is, again, to help the venues. In the past, but prior to pandemic, we were kind of, especially with hard tickets, it was really on the host side, and I think this is what Robyn was definitely mentioned, is it was really, they were just getting a list of barcodes. They had no clue who the buyers were except for a spreadsheet we provide them. And I think, Andrew, this from when you hosted, it's come a long way where we want to make sure that the host has complete transparency. We provide them access to the NCAA system, for they can see everything. They can handle any issues that come up. They can help the teams as they advance, where they can see all the tickets and make sure if there's any resolution that needs to happen, it's taken in. So it's definitely changed quite a bit, I'd say, just really in the past 3 years, where we've come from and where we've gone. And as Dan mentioned, I mean, the mobile's helped. Where I used to I'd be sitting here with stacks of tickets that first weekend with 8 sites, and trying to make sure we didn't have any duplicate tickets, because there was always duplicate tickets when we were basically trying to manage out of 2 different ticket systems. So I think that's been a big factor. And again, it's definitely helpful to have Robyn and Dan as our first 4. They kind of are our test with everything going out. We kind of know if that Tuesday comes and hopefully everything's going well, we feel good about moving into Thursday. We can clean anything up that we have to. So they're great to work with. And we do start about a year in advance. We actually, during a championship, we'll actually start kind of lead generation for next year, and then we really start selling come the fall, as they said. And that's actually a change from a couple, just even 3 years ago, where we used to be on sale. So we used to be going out on sale right now with the following year, which made it a little bit difficult, trying to manage now all the sites for this year and then the following year. So but we saw our sales actually have picked up by waiting a little bit. So
perfect, that's good to know. So all right, let's move on to, I think, the big day. So we'll pretend that it's the year 2017 with the technology of 2023. Us in Providence have been sent to Dayton. So what do we expect? What should be, the next things that we're doing? I know there's all sorts of meetings that we'll have to jump on, and then, we'll get in touch with, obviously, folks. So I'm going to turn it over to the folks at Dayton to kind of talk through that process from their end about what they're seeing on Selection Sunday. They get the teams that they know they'll be working with. What kind of next steps do you guys do? And how do you work through kind of with people to get them their tickets, work on the locations and all that sort of stuff?
Well, I can start off and then turn it to Robyn about No, it's perfect. I think because it's changed a little bit. It's we find out I don't get advance notice. The schools don't, or like the hosts don't get advance notice. I'm watching it as it's happening. And what we do now is I'll actually send out an email to each school and copy the venue ticket contacts with your allocation. As I mentioned, unfortunately, we won't know which session you're playing in yet, but we'll share with you, okay, you're the top seed, so these are going to be your locations. You're the fourth highest seed, these will be your locations. We'll share that along with a map of the arena and just other kind of key points, which will also actually include. We usually go ahead and include the deck, the ticket part of the manual. We'll include that, and then we'll basically kind of, depending on the site, because again, every site's a little different. But for the most part, we'll turn it over to the host ticket vendors, where they'll then start the communication, which I'm still involved if need to be. But then Robyn and Dan will take it from there. So it's kind of an introduction from the NCAA and myself to the host ticket managers, with again to confirm that we know the exact locations. But then Robyn and Dan can touch on, but again, kind of more of the communication at that point of. Again, questions about the venue and everything and all that. So I'll let them talk through that.
I was definitely going to say what Jared said in regards to, we know nothing about who's coming here until the selection show, and we have a watch party here where basically you're watching for Dayton to pop up for those first 4 teams, and also you're hoping Dayton pops up somewhere on that bracket as well.
Hopefully not in Dayton.
Yeah, has happened before. So it's just, we're writing down to know who's coming, what the matchups are, waiting to find out what day they're playing, what session they are, and everything like that. We're really reacting in the moment with you all. So there's preparation that we can do in advance to, like Jared said, the seating, everything like that, some of those laid out conference calls to be on. And then from there, it's really just kind of being there to service you and your questions. It's knowing that all of a sudden you're planning a bunch of things with how you're getting here, where you're staying. But Dayton has, I think I saw the number the other day, was 129 games that we've hosted in the NCAA tournament. So we have a crew here that have been here for a large amount of that, like Robyn said, 20 years of being ready to help and jump in and do this on a year-to-year basis. So for us, it's the initial hurry up, and then it's kind of wait, but also like Jared said, there's 24 hours to make your decision on optional tickets. So not waiting too long, but just knowing that we're here to help and move everything forward that we can for you from Sunday night all the way through your departure from Dayton.
And we have a great set of team hosts who will be here to help you throughout your time here. If you have any questions, they're very experienced. We've had the same people year after year after year that are doing that team host role. So feel free to get in touch with them with any questions that you have about the Dayton area, your hotel, etc. And then Dan and I, of course, are available for any ticketing questions, venue questions, what seats on the aisle, what seats closer to the center, that type of thing. So just hopefully you'll have time to enjoy your time here and throughout the tournament.
Great. Yeah, like I said, having been to Dayton, I believe it was back in 2017, couldn't have been a better experience. It's one of those things where such a quick turnaround. And I know for a lot of teams, it's, the elation of just gotten over the line, or kind of relief that you didn't fall too far. But, it's the atmosphere there is fantastic. The fan base has really bought into the event. And so just the energy that's in the building, it really feels like a great proper kickoff to the tournament. And unfortunately, we didn't make it out of it that year, but it's still, I think, a great way to start the tournament and then kind of being able to move on from there. So I can't, speak enough about the team there and all the folks there. If you end up there, you're definitely in very, very good hands. And just generally, I think any site you're going to be at, just like I said, a ton of resources around you to be able to help you navigate kind of what you're doing and kind of how things work. And we found personally from the participant side that the open practice is a great time to be able to go into the building, be able to really see the seats. And if you haven't done your seating by then, really make sure you have a sense of where are the good sight lines, who needs to go where, just really making sure you have your highs and lows numbered seats correct, and if they're flipped or not, and all of those kind of details, see the sites in the building, kind of know where things are at. So that's another great time to be able to kind of get boots on the ground and see that. But in this day and age, being able to email, pick up the phone, like everybody's willing to answer any questions you have, because everybody's in the same boat of having to figure out all of a sudden, all right, it's go time and let's figure this out. So perfect. So any other last kind of thoughts from the group as we're wrapping this up here to anybody who's participating?
Yeah, I just have two quick things I'll add. Is the one thing I just want to mention is accessible seats. Again, we don't mention it in that deck, but we do have accessible seats at all rounds for each team. So we're actually okay if you just need to add on a couple of those, or if you want to exchange them, you have that option. So we do have accessible seats. It's not part of your allotment, but we hold them back to make sure we can allocate some of those to you. Then the last thing is with going to mobile and digital tickets, is we are not requiring, we're still highly recommended that you're still on site to be in the box office to help with any of your fans. If they have anything that comes up, again, the host, Robyn, Dan, they'll do their best to resolution. But if somebody's coming up to complain about their location, that's not really on them. That's, obviously we didn't assign the seats. Obviously I know we provide the locations overall, but again, it's just good to be there, or at least make sure that your host, Robyn, Dan, have a way to get in contact with you. That's the key. As we understand now, it's just sitting in there for a couple hours and not have to do anything, but we want to make sure that if there is an issue, they can easily get in contact with you. You will still have a credential where you can still get up into the box office, so you can come up and be there maybe just when gates open or something like that. I think that's still helpful for the host and the box office, that you're there. Just gives them a little bit of probably peace of mind that, again, for a little bit, then they know that they can meet you, make sure they have your contact information, and feel good about that end.
Yeah, along those same lines, like Dan said, with the mobile ticketing, it's made everything quite a bit easier that you can get your tickets to your fans ahead of time. But yeah, as long as we have your contact information. And then the case here, as well as I'm sure many other venues, cell phones don't work great inside the venue. So just letting us know where you are going to be physically if you're not in the box office, in case we can't get texts or calls to go through, as long as we can. Again, we haven't had many problems that we have to contact the ticket managers for, but just being available so we can grab you if we need you.
Yeah, I think Dan mentioned this, but we do send a know before you go to each different site to them. So we will, once those tickets are in accounts. Now, what we do is we usually do it earlier in the week, but then also we actually do it the morning of each of the sessions. And those that didn't even open the email, we'll send again. So we'll look at all that to ensure. So even if you're not transferring your tickets till the day before, they'll get a no before you go the morning of. Again, for those on the Ticketmaster, they'll strongly recommend to download it to your wallet. For the other ones, they just say to have the app ready for access. So that is communication sent out that your fans will be included on as soon as they receive and accept their tickets, or the tickets are uploaded into accounts. So they will start receiving that information. So just to be aware.
Yeah, perfect. And I could say from the participant side, that whole process goes super smoothly. It's really easy for us to track kind of where we're at with things, and being able to kind of serve customers a little bit more. Like, it was definitely easy. And we're a packed school, and so playing in all these other venues, like I said, even us making a manifest in our system, being able to export stuff and manage it, even kind of between where our point of sale is and how we're doing that, we've experienced no problems with that kind of throughout the year. So Jared and his team and all the venues do a great job of managing that technology and making sure fans kind of know what they need to know and be able to get in the building. So that's been super smooth, at least for us last year.
Yeah, and I think one of the things is, a lot of the venues are, Ticketmaster, as I mentioned, and it's the same Ticketmaster platform that if you're at Dayton, and then you go to another Ticketmaster site in the first and second round, your fans start getting used to it, because it's going to be the same login, the same link, everything that they go through. So on that aspect, it does help them as they go forward. Unfortunately, Robyn does get it, and Dan get it sometimes because they're the first ones, and there's issues just logging in. But then as your team moves from Dayton or moves from a first and second round to a regional site that's the same Ticketmaster, it's helpful. And then the Final Four, now they're used to it and they're in the same system. So it makes it a little bit easier.
I think the only thing I can add from the hosting perspective also is just think about how you would want your fans to be treated at a venue. So that's how we try to treat the 8 teams that come here to Dayton. So yesterday we ended or February 28th, we ended our regular season schedule. Yesterday on March 1st, we updated our game day app to basically become a first four ticket app type thing to be able to, for all of our fans that are used to going through our app to get to their tickets or parking, now they don't have to try to go to a different website or things like that. There is a Final Four app that comes out, and there's a number of different options to get to your tickets. But in our case, we just decided to make that quick update to our app since it's kind of no longer needed for the rest of the basketball season to try to make it a one-stop shop for fans. Because in our case, we have parking coming from our system that's digital, and then digital tickets coming from the NCAA's database. So it was our way to kind of merge that together to try to make it as easy for fans. So just little ideas like that you can try to come up with to make it a smooth process for people that might be concerned about going to a new venue or are used to being a packed school, but now they have to have a Ticketmaster account or things like that. Just pays off in the long run.
That is a really great tip that when we're hosting in 2025, I will be certainly to keep it in mind. So hadn't thought about that one yet, but no, that's a great tip. All right, perfect. And then I think the last thing I'll add, just having been in it, is just, try to enjoy the moment. It's one of those things that it genuinely is drinking from the fire hose. And like in my years of working the tournament, I think my predominant memory of this is just being in a hotel room, just having to grind away at tickets and seating, and it's real quick turnarounds, and it's a lot of pressure and a lot of people, especially when we were in Chicago and we have, 2,000 demand for tickets for 1,000 seats, it's a lot of saying no and a lot of people kind of disappointed. But at the end of the day, it really is a special thing to be a part of. It's a just phenomenal event. You get to see so many of your peers. You get to just be a part of just the atmosphere, and it's all the excitement, and it really is a great thing. So as much as it is crazy, definitely try to take a step back and just appreciate kind of where you're at, because sometimes it is kind of few and far between the opportunity to be able to participate. So if you do get that chance, just enjoy yourselves as best you can. So perfect. So thank you again to Jared, Dan, and Robyn for helping us out here. I mean, that perspective is, I think, really, really great, and certainly help a lot of people. If you have any follow-up questions, I know any of us are certainly willing to help. There's a lot of people within the NAATSO community who have been through this multiple times, a lot of people hosting in the NAATSO community. So don't be afraid to pick up the phone, send an email as you win your tournament, as you find out your name's called on Selection Sunday, a lot of resources around you to be able to help. So good luck, everybody, with the remainder of the season, and we will talk to you soon.